What's up, YouTube? Winterguard here. Today we're going to get into 2.4 change to the druid, which I think's kind of been getting overlooked, even though it's made things a little more viable, and that's the summoning skills. People have been focusing on the fire ellie changes, which are pretty awesome, and the unfortunate change to IAS calculation for the feral druids, which is pretty bad. So we're going to look at summoning skills, which got a really big buff, and honestly nobody's really touching base on it, and I think this is really one of the safest leveling builds that will get you all the way through hell difficulty Baal, which I will demonstrate using some pretty gimp gear, to be perfectly honest, just to demonstrate how safe and easy this build can be. If you like the Summoner Necromancer, this will be right up your alley. It works pretty well. So what we'll do first, I'm going to go over the changes that were made real quick. I'm not going to hit on all of them, but there was a significant amount of changes to the Summoner Druid, and this really plays into a really safe build that you don't need gear, really any good gear, to complete hell difficulty with. So let's get into this real quick. We're going to go through the changes first, and I'll put them up on the screen so you can kind of see what were changed. Now I'm not going to go over the sages. Those were a lot of tooltip changes. There were some health and resist changes to those, but they're still pretty squishy, to be perfectly honest. But let's look first at the Raven. The Raven changed. Now the change was actually a reduction in the quantity of ravens you can spawn, but their damage scaled pretty significantly, and they added synergies to wolf, direwolf, and grizzly. When I say changes, there was a big bump in damage per level. It's a 12% damage per level per synergy, and they all attack 5 hits and then they disappear and you have to respawn them. But their AR ratings went way up, so they'll hit more often, and their damage is significantly greater. So Ravens is going to be kind of your constant spam skill, so to speak, since they disappear after 5 hits. Then next we'll look at Spirit Wolves. Now this is a pretty big change. These usually before they only did physical damage. They added a cold damage effect to the Spirit Wolf, so now you actually have some elemental damage and a chill effect when you use the Spirit Wolves. So their health went up, base life went up by 80%, which is really crazy. The damage scaling went up by 10% per level. And now the life per level increases by 10%. So these guys are really tanky, and you'll see this across the board for the summons for the Spirit, the Dire, and the Grizzly. The scaling went up for damage and health, so they stay alive a lot longer. And as you'll see, you could use these to literally clear all the way through hell difficulty, and all you have to do is sit back and watch them. If one dies, you res him back immediately, and then you just keep your Raven spam up. So the next one we'll look at, and I actually, what you'll see, I'm going to be using Spirit Wolves because of the extra cold damage. So we get a little Ellie hit. If you run into Fizz immunes, you were kind of screwed before, but now you just throw the Dire Wolves in, and each one of those is attacking with cold. So even though the damage is not significant with them constantly spamming attacks, you can beat down Fizz immunes pretty quickly. So for the Dire Wolf, same thing. Damage scaling went up. Base life went up. They actually went up by 90%. Life synergy reduced from 25 to 15. But that was just because the base life went up. So no big deal there. And update tooltips. Again, and what you'll need to know is you can only keep either the Spirit Wolf pack up, the Dire Wolf pack up, or the Grizzly up. You can't have all of them. So you'll have to choose which way you want to go. The Grizzly is extremely tanky, but you have one Grizzly and his damage is is okay, but with the health increases for the wolves, I think it's better to go that direction. And with the LE damage increase with the spirit wolves, that's probably going to be your base attack group outside of again the Raven spam. They also did the same thing with the creepers. I actually didn't mess with the creepers. I probably should have thrown them in there for a little extra poison damage, but we mainly went with the wolves to clear. And what I'm going to show is I'm going to show clearing chaos and then a Baal kill, and I'll show you what I use. So this is first. Let's look at the skill tree. So as you'll see, I only have +2 extra skills on this, so again, the gear's not great. Because the synergies are across the board, just straight down the line, do all the synergies, and then we use Heart of the Wolverine for extra damage and attack rating. So that's pretty much your base setup. I didn't do anything anywhere else, and you could probably do some combos or some hybrids with this that might work as well if you want to throw a little extra LE damage in from the druid, since you're pretty much just sitting back and watching. So you could probably hybrid this build up a little bit, perhaps go into one of the LE skills. But again, I just wanted to demonstrate how the summoning worked. So that's pretty much the setup. But let's take a look at the gear. And this is probably going to be a little crazy for you guys, but this is what I use to beat Chaos and Baal all the way through in Hell difficulty. We're going to use Volcathan set, which is, as you can see, requires level 11. So I'm using early normal gear. It's the full set, which is 5-piece. I threw on a string of ears just to demonstrate. Again, we're going to be using low level gear. Mage fists, which are level 23. The string is level 29. And then I threw on, yes, some Vidala light plated boots. Guys from Discord might get a little kick out of this. This little inside joke. But these are the boots, and literally just for the extra faster run walk. That is the gear we're going to use. So this is literally gear you can get in normal. They provide us with one of each charm, so we're only actually going to utilize the one summoning charm for any additional bonus. I did throw an SOJ in there for an extra skill point, but technically that's still level 29 ring. So even though SOJ is a pretty significant find, it's at the bottom level of gear. So we went ahead and threw one in, and then that's it. We gained some life from the other charms, but that's it. And then we have a couple of resist charms that they give us, and just one charm that I threw in there just because I found it while I was running Diablo. So, and that's it. That's what we're going to use. The mercenary I'm going to use is the Cold Mercenary, just for a little bit of CC from the cold arrows. And if you look at her gear, we're using a Wisdom Mask, a Duriel Shell. Now this is the only thing that people might consider higher level, which it is if you look at the runes that are required to make this. However, they only give us a long warbow base to put this in, so the damage output honestly is not good. The stats on the bow are decent. Mainly we're going to take advantage of just the freeze effect, and that's pretty much it. She's not going to hit very hard, but her CC is going to be pretty much the same as if you put any other bow in her. The damage will be significantly less if you look into, say, using a normal bow from normal difficulty. But it's mainly there for CC effect. The concentration R is a little helpful because it has a damage increase, but you could replace this with a Might Merc from Act 2 as well. So I mean, this may be outside of what I'm talking about when I say low level gear, but in the overall scheme of things, she's there just for the cold CC, which can be provided by just about any other bow. So I went ahead and threw that in there. But what I'm going to show you guys is that I will do a Chaos clear and a Diablo kill, and then a Baal clear and then Baal kill with this gear. So we're going to get into the highlights of the run itself. If you enjoy the video, give me a like and subscribe. This link to my Discord is in the description. So check us out there. I'm on Discord a lot when I'm not creating any content, so you can ask me questions if you can catch me online there. But we're going to go ahead and get into this, and I'm going to show you what it looks like to kill. Then this again, this is in hell difficulty with this summoner druid with very minimal gear. Oh, and on top of all that, if you look at my resists, they're quite horrible. So we're going to go ahead and do this with this particular setup, and I'm going to show you how viable summoning is for the druid now. So let's get into it. Okay, we're going to get this thing going in Diablo here, in Chaos here, up to the River Flame, and this is kind of funny. Yes, you see it correctly. I hit the first skull pile before we even get into the run, and a low rune pops out. One of the reasons why I don't like PTR, but whatever. I mean, it happens. So we'll go ahead and chug up to through the River Flame and get into Chaos Sanctuary and start clearing some mobs. Okay, we're getting into Chaos now, and again, this is one of the things, since I don't have Enigma or a way to teleport, River Flame's kind of slow going, but you know, with these guys, with the summoners, this pretty straightforward. We just spam the ravens. Again, they do their 5 hits and then die, so you have to, the only thing you really have to look at is keeping an eye on your raven count. Now you can right click where you want them to go. So if you want certain mobs you want them to focus on, you could click over top of them, and that's the ones that they'll spawn on and attack. But as you can see, the wolves, you rarely lose wolves. On occasion they will drop and you just throw one immediately back in, so it's really not that big a deal. And again, just keep up the raven spam. That's going to be your main damage output. You're going to get, again, the LE damage from your wolves, but the ravens are going to be where the damage is at. Okay, we'll pop the first seal boss here. And Vizier's not that big a deal. Again, the damage output on these guys is actually really decent. And again, once I'd mentioned earlier, you can maybe build a hybrid build and get some damage out of your druid as well. But basically all I do here is just spam ravens as they die or get used up, and we just keep on trucking. And this is not a problem. Again, we go through all the seal bosses without any issues. So we'll go ahead and show the Diablo kill next. Okay, now we're on Diablo, and I didn't want to show the whole fight because the thing with this and the lack of gear is that the fights do take a little bit of time, but once you get him pinned in here and just keep your raven spam up, he gets worked down fairly quickly. And you could probably get a better damage merc as well to make this go a little quicker, but he's not really doing anything to the wolves, and they just eventually burn him down. So Diablo down, pretty easy, no deaths. I don't think we really even took any damage, to be perfectly honest. Okay, we're gonna just show. I didn't show the level getting down to Worldstone Keep, but it was just a steady progress through there, so no issues in Worldstone. We're just going to show you the wave clears here, and no issues here as well. In fact, some of them went surprisingly faster than I thought they would be. So honestly, with the waves themselves, I think the second wave here is probably the toughest one. And it's only because there's so many different mobs to focus on. So what you have to do is spam cast on your target so that all of them are focused on that one, and work those down one at a time. And then once they're dead, the unravelers, then you could just work on the individual mages. Then you could split targets and just beat them down real quick. But this is actually the worst wave out of the 5 to technically clear. So I'm just going to show you the rest of the waves just real quick, and you guys could just see how they went down, and then we'll get on to how Diablo went, or Baal went. Okay, so let's talk about Baal a little bit. The issue with Baal, now we do get this kill, but it took quite a few trips back to town, and the biggest problem with Baal is positioning. So, especially on this bridge, it's tough to get the summons to commit without you getting extremely close, which then puts you in the line of fire of a lot of his attacks. But you can play some angles like these corners here and take advantage and spam the summons directly on top of him. But as you can see here, he'll teleport on top, then he'll spam all his different attacks, which seem to be ramped up quite a bit actually. On these attempts, his attacks were pretty quick. And it might just be that since the fight was so long that I was just noticing it more. But it was kind of a pain, and like I said, it took significant trips back to town to repot and that sort of thing. But I wanted to get this kill with just the gear I was wearing. I didn't want to really switch things out, so we just had to play the town a lot and go back in, do some damage, and come back. Which a lot of times for people, that's kind of how the first kill can go unless you're overgeared for or over leveled for it. So, I mean, this is kind of falls in line with how you kind of have to play it at the very beginning, especially if your gear's not that great. So we just did that, played angles and corners, but outside of that, it was just a slow beat down until you get him. So we'll go ahead and jump ahead to the actual kill. So here we go. We're nearing the end of it, and as you can see, it's just a continuous beat down on him and spamming mobs. But eventually he does die. And of course, in typical Baal fashion, his loot's pretty horrible. But again, with what I was wearing and this particular build, I think this is pretty significant advance into how the summoners work. So I think this is pretty good. Okay, so as you guys saw, that was doable. It's slow and tedious, but considering the gear I was using, I wouldn't expect any less with this setup. Again, using the Chthon set is kind of crazy, but you could significantly increase your gear and increase the damage output from the ravens and the wolves. So it was interesting to see. I think this is going to be a pretty viable build, and I'll probably be doing that. It's not going to be my first character on ladder, but I will probably roll this as maybe my second or third just to see how strong I could get it. It's actually kind of fun to see that this got a bit of a boost from 2.4, and we'll probably see some people trying this. Again, it's a really safe build. You probably could use this in hardcore fairly easily and stay alive, because all you have to do is hang back and keep your summons up, and you're pretty much going to just clear through everything without much difficulty. The only thing that's going to get into an issue at some point is probably you're going to run into some issues where positioning might be a problem. I can see the maggot layer being a real pain in the butt. You could probably spam ravens up ahead of yourself as you're going through the tunnels. That one will probably be honestly the worst area to go through with this build, but probably no different than summon Necro. So we'll go ahead and leave it there. If you guys want to try it out and let me know what you think, just to hit me up in the comments. Again, you can reach me on Discord if you have any questions about this. But we're going to leave this here and see if we get some people to try this one out. I think some people will find some credence in doing this build, especially if they just want to hang back and spam ravens. But you guys have a great day. Hit me up on Discord. Keep on farming.